People seem to like me. I don't know.
I mean, you're likable, so it's not.
Yeah, I'm a fairly likable
You also
guy.
smile a lot, and people
Yeah,
like that too.
that helps. I'm used to using my ears. My wife talks a lot, so I find that people can relate to you more and have better conversations if you're just yourself and not trying to be better than you think you are or whatever.
A great title for this would be your average interview of your average person. And I'm like, that's
Yep.
totally fine. The point is to grow and learn from this process.
Exactly.
Like, that's exactly what this is supposed to be, just giving normal people a voice and sharing their perspective, experience, and opinions. Like, that's not a bad thing. And I'm not expecting it to be people who are
well versed in
Speaker of the House
thing.
or White House press secretary.
Yeah.
And then
there's so much to talk about.
And I'm like, I want to highlight him. There's so much that you and I agree with. There's just not enough time in a day or in the episode. Hello. Welcome to this week's podcast. Today we have on Ray Scott. And he and I are great buddies. We've known each other for a while, since college, actually. We took a few classes together. We were both psych majors, and we were both in a mentoring program for some students at the local middle school. So anyway, Ray, go ahead and introduce a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a guy. I'm just your average guy trying to make a difference in the world, honestly. And I like to keep it simple for people, for myself and for my family. So it's kind of the motto of my life. But yeah, I'm just here helping out a friend and looking to talk about important things and things that are happening in our world today.
All right, awesome. So let's get right into it. You said you wanted to talk about spirituality or about humanity and lives of some people that you've seen struggling in some ways that you've been able to help them. Also about a little bit about the housing market. And so here we go.
Hello, there you are.
Okay. Hey, what's up?
All right, this is see if this is too low here.
Oh no, I shouldn't have shaved.
Yeah,
I mean, I
know. I was like, I'm not shaving. I'm growing it out.
Yeah, I was for a while, but and then I had to shave, especially for my wife's grandmother on her dad's side just recently passed away, like maybe 3 weeks ago. So I had to shave for that, and then I've just kept shaving it. It just, I mean, I didn't shave this morning, but this is just one day though, because I shaved actually, maybe this is 2. Did I shave this? I don't think I shaved yesterday because I didn't record yesterday. This may be 2 days.
So wait a minute, how much are you recording? Are you doing a lot of videos? And
well, I've started posting consistently, or forcing myself to post consistently, so I've needed to step up my recording so that I have things to post. On top of that, I'm getting a surgery on Monday after the weekend. So I'm gonna be out, and I don't want to have the pressure to keep recording and things. So I want to at least record one, and then I just got so much feedback of people that wanted to be part of it that I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah. And then I just started scheduling it. And then because I had messaged one message like, hey, I'd really like to at least get one recorded and edited by the 18th. And then like 10 people responded, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. All right. So all of a sudden, you to this day, you to this day, you to this day, and then you to this day. And then I think I get the days mixed up, which was fine. Because I don't think I had anyone yesterday, and I had fallen asleep early anyway. So I told someone that I had Wednesday and Saturday booked, even though Saturday I'm going to be out of town, so I had to reschedule that one, and it was Tuesday, not Wednesday. So, I mean, that's fine. Those are my 2 days off. But yeah, so I recorded one that's going to go live on the 18th. It's just, I mean, it's literally just imperfect conversation. I spent, I don't know, like 11 or 14 hours editing or something. In Adobe. And I mean, it's fine. Not great, but it's fine. And he had said, like, I don't know if we should post this one. And I'm like, well, I'll edit it and then see what you think. And he's like, well, I don't want to waste your time editing. And I'm like, well, we can always just have a part two. Like, the point is to grow and learn from this
Yeah,
process.
exactly.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I had someone else, he said the great title for this would be your average interview of your average person. And I'm like, that's
Yep.
totally fine. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, that's exactly what this is supposed to be, just giving normal people a voice and sharing
Yeah.
their perspective, experience, and opinions. Like, that's not a bad thing. And I'm not
Yeah.
expecting it to be people who are
Well versed in
Speaker of
every
the
little
House
thing.
or
Yeah.
yeah, press secretary, White House press secretary.
I find that people can relate to you more and have better conversations if you're just yourself and not trying to be better than you think you are or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I talk with people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my job, and people seem to like me. I don't know.
I mean, you're likable, so it's not.
Yeah, I'm a fairly likable
You also
guy.
smile a lot, and people
Yeah,
like that too.
that helps, and they can see your smile when it's over the phone.
True. Oh, true. That's what they always tell you in customer service, but so true. Like, could you tell I'm not smiling right now?
Yeah. I don't know if my kids will try to come in. So it's a little quieter out here. Like one of those sound studios or whatever, you know.
No, what about sound studios?
I'd like to have one of those, you know, just a box in your garage.
Oh yeah. Well, we talked about putting up a curtain or sheet right back here, so we don't always have to have it perfectly clean. Obviously it's different than the last time because it was over in the other room, and my son grew up, and so he gets into everything.
Yeah,
so
they do that.
Yeah.
Well, how old is he now?
He'll be 3 in October. So yeah,
that's
yeah. he's already very challenging in how he explores and innovates, and he's very resourceful. He's very intelligent, he's very resourceful, and he's very strong-willed. You put those three things together and you get a very, very challenging situation, that's for sure.
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, it helps us grow too. Like, it forces me to be better, or like be on the top of my game, and not get lazy, which is fine.
Yeah. Well, my kids are all kind of a little bit different, of course. They've got all their own personalities, but it's true. They're what they are when they're 2 or 3 years old is what they're going to be. There ain't no changing that.
Yeah.
Like the 2-year-old, very strong-willed, very, I'm not gonna accept anything from you or what you say. It's my way.
Yeah.
The oldest, she's very like, I'm gonna obey you, Dad, or I'm gonna, follow your rules. And I'm gonna tell on anybody that doesn't follow the rules. And
oh yeah.
and then the little guy,
sorry.
Yeah, he just has a good time with everybody. He's very much like me. So I'm just like, oh, these kids are funny.
Crazy to think. I grew up the youngest, and so the youngest of my parents' kids, and they were both the youngest of their siblings and their parents' kids.
Oh, that's
so I'm the youngest of the youngest of the youngest of my entire generation.
Wow.
At least on my side of the family.
Yeah.
With Victoria's family, she's the oldest, and so she has several siblings that are younger. Actually, yeah, her dad is 10 years older than my sister. Her mom is 10 years older than her dad. And my dad, I think, is 10 years older than her mom, or something like that. So it's funny. It's like there's a very large age span difference. Well, we should have already started this. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And esports has gotten huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it started with like Halo, or even like StarCraft. Like there were early things, and then now it's just turned into something insane. Like the players, like just from tournament winnings alone, are upwards of like 7 to 8 million for like the top players, and that's not sponsorships, that's not brand deals, that's not pro teams, that's not any other kind of money coming in, that's just tournament winnings.
Where does the money come? Where's the honestly,
it's advertisements. I mean, like a TV show, how do you get so much money to pay celebrities and like actors and actresses? It's from the money ads. Yeah, I mean, that's why there's 3 minutes of commercials every 10 minutes, like
Yeah.
of a show.
Yeah.
You record an hour-long thing, and it's only 40 minutes of a show, 42 minutes of a show, and the rest is 18 or 20 minutes of ads. And so it's effectively the same. You get like think of NASCAR. When you how you're paid is brand deals. Like you're driving around a
Yeah.
walking like a driving advertisement, and so people pay you for the publicity that you get. And it's like, you know, you won the Super Bowl, what do you do? I'm going to Disneyland. Like it's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's all just, if you can help other companies make money, they'll pay you for the advertising. And
Wow.
yeah, and so it's the same way. It's like YouTube is AdSense. So it's
Yeah.
like how many ads you put in your video, you get, say, like 1 cent per ad that a viewer watches. So if each viewer, say, like clicks through like 6 different ads in your 10 or 15-minute video, then you make 6 cents. And if you have per viewer,
Yeah.
and if you
Yeah.
have 50 million views per video, or
Okay.
36 million views per video, you can see how
Yeah.
you can make a ton of money. And again, that's just one line. That's not, I mean, there's still, and that's just one platform. There's TikTok, there's Snapchat, there's
Yeah.
Instagram, and then there's brand deals. Again, like people can, like, you know, pay to $10,000 or $50,000 just to sponsor a single product in a single episode. And
Oh,
sometimes there's ones that are like Mr. Beast. Have you ever heard of Mr. Beast?
Oh, of course. He's like the
Yeah.
number one guy
Yeah.
or whatever.
He has a
How many
huge
followers does he
following.
have? Like 400 million or something like that? I don't know.
I don't think it's that much. I don't know. PewDiePie had 100 million, and he was kind of competing. I think he was around like 80
Yeah.
million or something, and they were
You
both.
know
Yeah,
Preston
pretty.
and Brianna. They're from
Oh,
Texas. Brianna has blonde hair.
okay.
My kids watch them a lot. They
Oh,
just,
okay.
but they don't cuss, and
Yeah.
they pull pranks on each other. They play video games. You
Oh, okay.
know, that's
Yeah.
kind of what their deal is.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of like families or couples that are big on
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah, I don't. They've got a huge following, and like they own a mansion and a couple Teslas. I'm like, oh my goodness, these guys
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
just for
And I mean, you can,
pulling
when
pranks
you,
on each other and
like,
stuff.
every single episode, it's like Raid Shadow Legends or Ring or anything else, no matter what it is. If someone says, hey, we know you have a lot of viewership, so if we give you this amount of money, we're expecting to get at least this much people viewing our product, basically, or the advertisement. And the more people that, so there's a flat, like, payment from sponsors, and then there's also a percentage or commission based on how much volume is, like, for through a specific link, like, you know, slash, you know, go to this slash whatever. And then through the amount of traffic through that link, you can get some kind of like 3% or 10% or 15% commissions or something through that link, because it's sales that the company never would have made. And so they'll still give you a cut of it. And so, yeah, it's all just cooperation. I mean, and it's, and there's so much money. I mean, and that's yeah. I mean, you don't pay to watch TV, but you do, because you spend 3 minutes every 10 minutes watching ads. So the ads that,
and then you pay to get rid
advertisers
of the ads too.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, think of like yeah, that's true. Well, and that's because if you don't show the ads, you are paying them instead of the sponsor.
Yeah.
And so, and like, if it's only $3 or $4 or $7 times 2 billion people, or even 400 million people, that's still a lot of money coming in. It's crazy. Like, in that, there's so much money that exists. I mean, now there's another 400%. Did you see that? It was like between like 20 and 2021, there was like 80% of all cash that has ever existed introduced into the market. That's why we have so much inflation now, and currently, like, U.S. is now destroying money. I don't know, but yeah, it's just, it was so much money that was just like, hey, everyone loves free stuff, but there was just too much money going around for too little supply at the time.
So they're destroying.
Prices
They're
just went up.
destroying money. Is that's how
I heard that. I don't know. I can never really trust what I hear, read, or see anymore. And so if I hear something, I'm like, oh, that might be true. Or supposedly this is happening, allegedly, but it's you never know anymore.
You don't. So, and deep fakes. I mean, you've heard of deep fakes and stuff. It's my dad, he can get caught up in that stuff. And I'm just like, Dad, you I don't think you realize how much technology has changed and how things have been manipulated to be able to get you to think something or do
Yeah,
something, you know? So,
it's so
um,
true.
what does it say my name is Grant on there?
It does say Grant Scott.
Okay, this is my alias. This is my podcast name.
How would you like
Oh,
me to, well, I mean, on that topic, how would you like me to introduce you?
this is your average
Grant Scott.
guy.
All right. Okay. Cool. And I'm entering the public sphere. I don't
Yeah.
want to force other people to enter the public sphere, but I like if like the whole platform is get
Yeah.
you and your voice known or heard. And
Absolutely. Yep.
so while I understand that there are people that don't want their names out there for doxing purposes or privacy or anything else, there's ways
Mhm.
around that. I mean, like I could find some other graphic or VTuber or I mean like all other kinds of things if someone didn't want to appear or even like Project Veritas, they always kind of like put
Yeah.
someone in like a silhouette or a shadow,
Yeah.
but it's really like allowing people to again like share what they witnessed and kind of expose different things going on that most people don't know about.
Oh
So
yeah. I Hey, I like the sound of that, and it's part of the reason why I want to talk so much about housing and homelessness and things along those lines, because I mean, honestly, there's some shady stuff going on, and there's some sad stuff. I mean, there's a lot of people not being served. Not that I think that things should be given to people, but at the same time, I mean, if we're paying, tax dollars paying for these services and things aren't happening, there's something wrong with that.
yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of really mindful and focused on that. And plus,
Mhm.
I serve a lot of these families. It's really it's kind of a sad situation for people that are on the streets right now and living in the heat.
Mhm.
We're not used to that up here, but I suppose people living on the streets probably get a little more used to it than say I would. But it's not easy living, and it can get you in a bad spot and all that stuff. And
Did you hear that there were what, like 500 or 700 people that had died in the heat wave? The one that was like 116, 118 degrees something last year
was it that was last year?
in the
Yeah,
Pacific Northwest, and I think Canada too. But it was literally like Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and part of Canada, and there were like hundreds of people just because the infrastructure isn't built for it.
yeah,
Salem, Oregon, was the third hottest in the world that day. Like, is how hot it was,
yeah, yeah.
and
That's
we're not
that's too
typically
bad.
on par with Death Valley, Sahara Desert, and
Yeah,
like it's not
yeah.
really, yeah, us
Yes.
usually being so
It's
far north, like north of
yeah.
the 45th parallel. Like what?
But what's ironic is people go
Mm,
on vacation down in Death Valley. My aunt and uncle, that's where they
mhm.
go. They love that
Wow.
place. They'll just hang out in Death Valley. I'm like,
Yeah, it's fly south for the, and I'm like, can I fly north for summer? Like I'll fly south for the winter, it's fine, but I want to fly north for the summer. Like
yes.
if
Although
I
I think
lived in, go ahead.
Yeah. Although I think that there's lots of bugs and stuff in the summer, more up north, but
I
who
mean,
knows?
yeah. Yeah, if it's like 62 degrees on a lake in Alaska or Montana. I mean, like there's so many different places to live and I've been stuck on the West Coast. I mean,
Speaking
I'm
of,
not stuck. Like it's good. It's a good place.
yeah.
Within 2 hours you can
Oh,
get to anywhere. You can get the desert, you can get the mountains, snow-capped mountains, you can get to urban areas,
you
you get to the
can't
beach. Like,
you can't beat the Pacific Northwest. I
yeah.
mean,
In terms
I
of
mean,
moderate climate and just like the average temperature is something between like 56 and 66 degrees like all year round, like
and
you're
that's
and yeah,
prime
yeah,
for so many different things.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I've looked at other places, just more affordable places everywhere from like Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, West Virginia, like that whole kind of just column there
Mhm.
below like Pennsylvania and west or east of like Dakotas, Kansas, Oklahoma. And there it's so cheap to live there, but they're like, well, yeah, but then you're talking about like flash floods and Tornado Alley and Bible Belt and all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's probably why houses are so cheap. But I
Yeah.
mean, out here it's like $460,000 for a starter house. What like I I don't know. But people have mortgages. Like you can afford it if you had another house that you then, saw some kind of increase or had built up some equity and then you start paying it off
Yeah.
and then now you have say $120,000 down payment. So you're keeping a $200,000 loan, So your
Yeah.
payment stays the same even if you move. And now it's like, oh yeah, do you have $1,800 to $2,500 per month before primary mortgage insurance,
Yeah.
before like it's just it's like, yeah,
Why would anyone want to do that? It's like my in-laws. They've got just a basic ranch style house, 3 bedrooms,
mhm,
only 1 bath. They're like, oh, we can get probably 390, 400 for this. I'm just like, what? And
yeah,
then
yeah,
they're looking at houses that are 600,000, and they aren't the best with their money. Let's just
yeah,
say that. But
yeah,
um, and I'm like, okay, so if you don't sell now and the market pops when it comes to housing, which I think it's going to,
yeah,
it may be a year or two, but and it starts to drop precipitously,
yeah,
their house is going to be less valuable.
yeah,
Problem is the interest rates right now they go and
yeah.
they're
They're
going to be
like,
paying
yeah, they're
seven
approaching
percent
like
on a six hundred
7%.
thousand dollar
Oh,
house.
so
Seven
insane.
percent on a $600,000
Yeah,
house.
you'll never pay it off ever.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or the income that you have to sustain. Like I was
yeah,
looking, what was it? Just like 2 years ago, it was like 62,000 was like the median household income. Household income.
yeah.
That's not single wage income. That's household income.
That's Oregon.
And
That's
then
Oregon too. That's not
yeah,
any other states. It's like
I
Oregon
think it's like
or it's national
yeah,
probably.
it's one of the it's either 60 or 62,000 for median household income.
That's
And
two
like Oregon
parents
is
working
actually
full
like
time.
one of the worst affordability places.
Yeah, that's
And in terms of like other places might be more expensive, but the
yeah,
income is just vastly
yeah,
more. I mean, you're living in Silicon Valley, you're making 120,000, like or whatever, you can afford $5,000 a month for an apartment.
yeah,
Like, but here it's like it's so upside down in the
yeah,
terms of I mean, like it's 1,600 plus for a 2 bedroom rent per month is going market rates. I mean, like you had said, why would people do that? Because they have to, because there's
yeah,
no other options. Either move and then risk like not having any opportunity, no job or anything else. And that's actually what a ton of people are doing. They're used to these, say, like California or New York wages, and then they're moving to Texas, Florida, wherever where there's a lot less taxes and things like that. But even in those instances, they had said, oh, well, we're going to give you a 15% pay cut minimum if you change zip codes. If you no longer live within a certain distance of where you were coming to work, even if you're doing the same exact job, and now you have even more experience because you only gain more,
yeah,
that you're going to take a massive pay cut based on where you live. And it's like, but I'm doing the same job. But the businesses are like, oh, we don't have to pay you anymore. But that's the whole point of moving was that you couldn't afford to live here. You're going to live there, but you're going to do the same thing for the business. So why would they pay you less? Yeah, a ton of people are returning to work now, but only for like higher wages. And because their wages went up while there's less supply, while the prices of
yeah.
gas are so high, well, coming down a little bit, but like the trucking industry, it's like, I don't know. I saw one post about a guy who owned a company and he had 3 trucks. Each truck, I
Hmm.
think he said, was $3,300 per day in fuel. So $10,000
Wow.
per day of gasoline alone. That's not including wages. That's not including repairs. That's not including insurance or anything else. It's just fuel costs. And how is he supposed to make money and that's only 3 trucks, like
Yeah.
and 3 semi trucks. So it's
Well,
just
you need drivers too. The drivers cost.
yeah, well,
I
and
don't
that's the
know.
point.
That's
Yeah, I
crazy.
mean, but they work long. I mean, like 100-hour weeks. Just driving. I have some friends that do that, or did that, and they were, I think, talking like at least 60, 80, 110,000 or something. But they're never home.
Yeah.
Like they're on the
And
road for at
no.
least 4 days at a time, if not 3 weeks at a time, and then they're home for like 3 days or a week or
Yeah.
something. And it's like if you can sustain that kind of living, like, but it's not, well, it's not for a family like someone
No.
who's needs to be present for a family. So we should be prioritizing opportunities of starting businesses where people really have value and find a way to offer other people value, and money will come in as it does if people value that. And
Yeah.
people, like when they don't have money, they get really desperate, and so the motivation just goes through the roof because they have to. I mean, like, and this was actually in a prior podcast as well. They said when Russia invaded Ukraine, they didn't think Ukraine would put up as much of a fight
Hmm.
as they did, and he was saying that never underestimate people who are fighting for their life. And
Yeah.
like because the motivation is there's no risk, like there's actually a risk if you don't act. And so
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
people are that desperate, especially like homeless population. And like I was watching something else that was talking about there's a heavy correlation between, what was it? I don't know, some metric of I can't remember what it's called anyway, and crime. And so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
based on the likelihood of or poverty or
yeah.
happiness metric, or so I can't remember what the metric was, but it was just highly correlated in that when people feel that the economy is going under and that they're losing options and hope, they turn to crime. And
Yeah,
so, I mean,
it's
because they have to, like, and
yeah,
it's not even saying it's justified, but like they don't have any other options. Putting yourself in that position. I mean, like, think of individuals in gangs, or
yeah,
even
yeah.
like politicians, like not just in US but across the world. And I had someone else again say, and I mean, I'm pulling my stuff from different sources because I don't know
Yeah.
everything, but other people might know something. And so this other person lives in Israel, and he had
Hmm,
said
hmm.
that mafia controls the world. And it's like, well, what do you mean? The governments? It's like, who controls the governments? He's like, if you have a mafia member say, hey, vote this way on this law or I'm gonna kill your family. And if you do vote this way, everyone is going to be alive and be given this amount of money. You can go live anywhere you want in the world and have private security detail or anything else. And it's like, well, like, I mean, and
What you
that's
gonna
one of those
choose?
situations where it's like it's all under the table. You don't really know, and it's not really supposed to know. There's just a bunch of people actually controlling the world or the happenings of the world, which may or may not be a good thing, but just
Yeah,
the like, because a lot of people don't know what they're doing. Majority of people don't know what happens or how it works, and the
yeah,
math behind it and everything else. But yeah, it's just it's a very different perspective when you include all context. Not saying that it changes the morality of the situation, but
yeah,
that
yeah,
one might understand or come to a point of recognition of what led up to someone making a choice that doesn't make any sense because you didn't have the context.
yeah,
And I mean, that's the reality of the world, though. Like, regardless of how terrible it is, it's just the
yeah. I mean,
reality of the
well,
world.
I think we can do with more people trying to understand people and putting themselves in other people's shoes. I mean, we could use a lot more of that. And I kind of understand from both sides. I mean, people don't want their stuff being stolen, and they worked hard for the few things that they do have, and people are coming up on their porches and stealing their stuff, and it's like,
Yeah,
who are you? What are you doing here? And then of course they want to protect themselves and their stuff and their property. And
yeah.
we got a homeless guy that comes around pretty often. I would say maybe 2 or 3 times a month, sometimes less, sometimes more. And he just walks around the. We have an alley back behind us, and
Oh, okay.
walks around and screams and cusses and
Mhm.
says all the most nasty things that you can possibly think of. And it's usually in the middle of the night. And I want to help the dude. I know he's on something. He's probably possessed, but at the same time, I don't want to approach him. I don't want he knows where I live, so I don't want to necessarily have him throwing rocks and
Yeah,
bottles at my car and stuff.
yeah.
But it's sad, and we've kind of invited that that sort of thing here by passing laws that take away the hard drugs law, where there's no consequences to people
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
taking
yeah,
taking
yeah,
hard drugs and stuff.
yeah.
So they come up here. Let's say they're from California. They come up here and they're
Mhm.
looking for to get away from having to go to jail for things and stuff. So
Yeah.
we're a lot more lenient on that stuff. We don't have
Mhm.
time for it. But what we have time for is to react to people getting
Crime.
hurt,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
to just crime, or cars getting stolen. But it's all
yeah.
reacting. It's not preventative. It just it's kind of a bad cycle. And seeing people on drugs walking around like zombies,
Mhm.
it's sad. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, it is
Or not on
prison,
drugs. I mean,
or
like,
not or not on drugs. Yeah,
there's a ton of people, I mean, that are suffering legitimate mental health
mental
issues
health.
that are
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
getting care, that are not
Hmm.
able to get care, the system is so overburdened. And I, for my own reasons, or I just relationships, people that I've known, like just they can't get into mental health anywhere. Or like it's like you have to go through insurance. You go through insurance even if you have insurance. You go through insurance. You contact every provider. Everyone either doesn't have anyone, they don't have any availability for like 6 or 8 months, or they're so focused areas that you can't get treatment or care at all. You can't even be seen or evaluated for anything. And it's punishing those who need help instead of helping them. And I mean, maybe that started when like a whole bunch of like mental hospitals or institutions had closed. I think it was back like 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, there were a ton of people that were released onto the streets that needed help and that stopped, that maybe for whatever reason couldn't take care of themselves, and ended up like with an inevitable outcome of being a detriment or menace toward society in a certain capacity, where there's crime or where they might not be aware of certain actions, or schizophrenia or something where they put themselves in harm's way, or even dementia. Like people with dementia, like I'm following a YouTube channel where they're documenting their cases, their investigation into cold cases, and there's so many people with dementia that weren't getting adequate care, or that were driving themselves, and then all of a sudden they just drove into a river off a boat ramp or dock, and they didn't even realize where they were, or they lost track of. So I mean, I think that everyone could benefit from some form of counseling or mentorship or medication if appropriate. But there are some people that need it that aren't getting help. And I mean, I even worked in security, and when I was working in security, it was, I want to be like empathetic and compassionate of your situation. I'm paid to have you not stand here. You can stand there, not here. If you stand here, I'm going to have to, call the authorities and have you trespassed. But that would almost be what they wanted, because then they'd spend the night in jail, and where they'd get food, shelter, and clothing, but it costs so much to house them in the prison system that often the governments just turn them away. They release them, and they say, and then they're back doing the same exact thing, almost like trying to get arrested so that they don't have to live on the streets.
That is something I never thought of.
And
so it saves the government money. That's
it's
what I was saying.
cheaper. It's cheaper to be reactive and respond to crime than it is to
Why did I never
sustain
think of that?
people in prison.
Oh my gosh, that's
I mean, you've heard the phrase that, like,
honestly,
you've heard the phrase that like it's more expensive to kill people than to put them in prison the rest of their life. Like, and
absolutely.
So in terms of like death penalty and death row, and it might take years for an execution to happen, even if it was determined that this would be the appropriate punishment by the judicial system. But it's getting to the point where the cost of sustaining the amount of inmates is so high that many places are just turning inmates away for like lesser crimes, which again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just an observation of reality. I mean, there are inevitable outcomes and consequences to that some might be good, some might not be good. And that's the whole thing. Is like, law is necessary for order, and you have to have a society where people are maintaining order. But lawlessness is a part of reality. There are people who desire to, or again, are heavily motivated to do certain things against the law, and that outweighs the perceived consequence or likelihood of them having to pay a certain fine or penalty or prison time. And if they weigh the pros and cons, and they believe it to be in their interest, or again, it might not even be they even weighed the thing, it was just in the moment they reacted to an overwhelming emotion, maybe that had been bottled up for a really long time. They didn't have the adequate tools or awareness or maturity or knowledge of how to deal with it, that they might end up making a decision that society doesn't want, but is best for their situation in their own processing. So the goal is to create a disincentive toward certain action and incentives toward other actions, which is why the tax system is how it is. Not saying it's morally good or bad, but it's saying we want to incentivize business owners to reinvest in their business, grow the business, and hire more people, because then again, it's tax too, but but then they pocket the money themselves, and then it's just redistributed like by the government. The whole point is supposed to be identify an objectively better outcome and then push people toward that, and hopefully create disincentives that are strong enough to motivate people away from certain actions. I mean, there's a big shift in culture right now that it's almost, for some people, not at all a motivating factor or disincentive to do or not do certain things, or might be an incentive to do certain things because it's better than their current situation.
Yeah.
And should it be that way? No one wants someone to have to face a consequence of a crime, whatever that may be. I mean, stand your ground laws. Like, no one, like anything. No one wants to like be the one to enforce like the law on a human life, whatever that may look like, whether putting them in prison, robbing them of freedoms or life, or what have you, for them committing crimes. But again, it's like, what's their motivation and what is going to be necessary to stop that action or get them to change. I mean, this is an episode in and of itself. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't have my air conditioner.
Incentivizing goodness. I mean,
yeah,
the thing is that if you talk about Christianity and you talk about altruism and things like that, you're incentivized to be good. If you follow God's word and the commandments and all that stuff, I mean, if you apply that to any culture, it's going to be a positive effect, regardless of what had happened in the past. I mean, goodness, it can spread in a way that, and it can change lives in a way that I don't think any other any other like external force as far as incentives goes. And changing hearts and stuff. So I mean, that's
individual.
That's what we're missing in our society is it's a godless society. It's fatherless homes. The nuclear home is not a thing anymore. It's applauded when you're a single parent and you can take care of yours and I see it too much, and marriage isn't a thing anymore. It's like, if people could just follow basic, simple stuff. Keep your life simple. Keep it simple, stupid is like one of my favorite. I heard that Pitbull, the rapper Pitbull, he said that. And I heard that, I was like, I hadn't heard that before, but I know that's a thing. But it's like, it's the most obvious. The reason I have a wife and kids and I'm faithful and I try to do things right is because it's easy. I don't have to be upset. I don't have to be angry or all this other stuff. It's simple to not create drama for yourself, not do drugs, go out partying and stuff, hook up with people, get in fights. I mean,
riding the line.
Life is man, I'm telling you, life is so good for me, and I know this might be rubbing in your nose. I feel for you and stuff, but but honestly, it's like I look at my friends and most of my friends are single parents and just having a hard time, and just like, man, if you would have just went by what you said you were and followed the path that you said that you wanted to follow, life would be a lot easier for you right now. But I'm still here to help, and don't just talk, act, follow what you believe. I mean,
so I had a couple of responses to that. One, before I forget that I probably already forgotten. So I'll say the other. We had a book growing up in our house that was Simple Pictures Are Best. And so it was basically this couple who they want to take their best picture. Okay, let me go get my best pair of shoes. Let me go get the cat. Let me go get, all of this stuff to get a really good picture. And then the whole time the photographer is saying, simple pictures are best. Simple pictures are best. Simple pictures are best. And so like they get to the very end, they have all of this other elaborate stuff in their life, and then a bull just comes in and like as they're taking the picture, and you can't see like anything except for the body of the bull in the picture. And it's like, I mean, sometimes life is like that in the way that you try to make it so perfect, and then something just happens that if you would have just been okay with how it was, like, you wouldn't be experiencing. Or sometimes it's impossible to avoid certain things, or you don't have full control over what happens to you. you do have control over how you respond, but you
Yeah.
don't have full control over what happens to you. I mean, some people would argue either that you don't have any or that you do, but it's like you can influence your situation, but other people can too, because they can make choices that, I mean, like people that get hit by drunk drivers. Well, yeah, they made the choice and took the risk to get in their car that day, take the route they did, but like it's not a like full control. Oh, sorry. You look up, and we got a new kitten, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And he was asleep in the windowsill, and now he's awake. The other thing was, and you had talked about, yeah, I already forgot it.
That's okay. I have a point I wanted to share
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
the making things great around you and all that stuff, and putting a lot of time and effort into buying things and all that stuff. It's like people that buy really nice cars and they have it sitting in their driveway. And when someone comes by and like, or a rock hits it or something, they just absolutely flip out. They're just like, you do know that at some point that thing's going to deteriorate.
Yeah.
The paint job on that vehicle is not going to look that nice.
Oh,
And
mine, not on mine. Mine.
yeah, but it's
Maybe
like,
everyone else's, not mine.
can you be content with what you have rather than paying $60,000 on a vehicle that's just gonna get, you know, flying rocks hitting it and tarnished and you know, probably getting an accident,
Yeah.
or spending all that time being concerned about that item or that
Mhm.
thing, you know? And that's kind of why I've gotten away from buying things just to make myself feel good about whatever and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's really helped me a lot.
It doesn't really work. Like if you try to
Yeah,
say like, oh, I'll be happy once I get this, like
yeah.
it's a happy thing. And the reality is happy doesn't last. Happy is only there until something replaces the happy, until
Yeah,
something happens that you can't control, until you get upset or frustrated or mad or angry, or until it's taken away from you. And sometimes, oh, he's nibbling at my feet. Happiness doesn't last. And a lot of people,
yeah,
it's like, oh, the pursuit of happiness. And
uh-huh,
well,
yeah,
why is that your end goal? You can be you can choose to be happy based on what happens to you, but happiness
yeah,
shouldn't be an end goal. Happiness should be something that you revel in amid the journey toward success, and success might mean something different. I mean, like I know that
uh-huh,
especially in religious circles that joy is prioritized, because joy is something that you can be thankful, you can be
yeah,
appreciative, you can count your blessings. Say in the event of a death of someone really close to you, you can grieve that they're gone, or you can choose to be excited and remember all the great times that
yeah,
you did get to have with them. Yeah, you don't have any control over it, but the parents who lose children, young children, or when a child dies before the parent at any age, it's one of those things where even if they were only here for that long, they have to accept, and they often get to a point of accepting, but it was a wonderful time. And I'm so glad and feel blessed that I was
yeah,
able to even experience however short of a time that I did with them.
yeah,
And that's the way that a lot of people have to move on, because there's comfort and peace in that. But I mean, what does it do to dwell on the past that you can't change,
mhm,
out of dwelling on the future that
yeah,
is full of unlimited potential? And
mhm,
you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen in 2 months or 2 years. You don't even know if you're
yeah,
still going to be, if any of us are still going to be alive in 2 days. And I was just speaking to my wife about this. I'm like, did you know we could be in California in like 5 hours? Did you know we could be in Germany in like 2 days? And just like the whole thing of understanding the true potential could be like, there could be a massive attack, like worldwide global
yeah,
attack on one specific area. You're forced to move.
yeah,
Now your entire life changes, say because of a work injury, or anything else.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not putting that above what we were just talking about. But like anything can happen at any time that completely throws your life into what might appear to be shambles. But what are you going to do with that? Are you going to take that and make an amazing thing out of it that no one even thought was possible? Or are you going to be bitter and
yeah,
frustrated and living in the triumphs of your past? I mean,
yeah,
like, who loves that high school athlete that is constantly living in the, oh man, I mean, it's kind of nice to kind of go back there for a little bit, but you don't want to live there. And then it's like, oh, my best days are behind me. Why? You like, that's a choice. Your
You
best
could do
days
so
can be
much.
in front of you. It just might look different or be on a different trajectory or path. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And there may have been a time where that was great, and there's a new time for a new great thing. And I think a lot of people get to that point where in their life it just comes a little bit too late, when either they can't, and I'll at least finish this part on this. I heard it phrased that when you're young, you have a ton of energy and a ton of time, no money. When you're middle-aged, you have a ton of energy and a ton of money, but you have no time. And when you're older, you have a ton of time and a ton of money, but no energy. And so it's like, at what point, if you're too young and you don't have money, and then you're like middle-aged and you don't have time, and then you're older and you don't have energy, then at what point are you going to choose to make something of your life or really pursue dreams and passions and loving others and building something that is gonna be there? Okay, I'm sorry, there's one more. So like, people that there were a bunch of people that were over 90 years old, and they were asked, if you could go back and change anything about your life, what would you choose? And they said collectively there were three that stood out among the rest. And there was one, that they would take more risk, they would reflect more on the past, and they would focus more on things, or prioritizing things and people that would, or building things that would last long after they were no longer here. And so, I mean, I'll kind of let that sink in for a minute, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, honestly, what are we getting? What are we getting at? What's the most important thing here? I mean, we're talking about relationships, building relationships with people, and making it a point to listen to other people and talk with them, and strengthen bonds with people, and spread the good news. So I can do it at work, not necessarily saying it exactly like I would want to, but people can see the light in followers of Christ, and it's a pretty cool thing. And opportunities, I mean, I might just say a prayer about something. I kind of pray randomly, not as much as I'd like to, but so there's this family camp that this church has given away free mini vacations for families.
Oh, nice.
And they're looking for families. They're like desperate for families. And I'm like, I'm not sure if the state would be okay with me just like, advertising a bunch of this stuff. So I'm trying to go about it in a little bit of a different way, but it's not like a Christian camp or anything like that. But they pray before meals, they pray before, leaving in places and stuff like that. So
spirituality, or
there's a
mindfulness. There's a bunch of words that are all kind of working around the same concept of something existing bigger than yourself that is more important than you, or might have the same, because everyone has the same importance as you. Why elevate yourself above everyone else? Well, it's like, well, you kind of have to. You have your own experience, you have your own bias, you have your own life to take a hold of and take responsibility for. But that there's something greater that's worth sacrificing, something that might elevate you to elevate others. And I mean, there's many, like I said, there's many different words that people can put on that. And it ultimately, it's the same thing. It's that life matters, and love matters, and building other people up matters, and doing everything you can to stay mindful of and stay with the perspective of how can I bless others with what I've been blessed with. And that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast.
So like when I was talking about when it comes to like prayer, so this pastor guy, he reaches out to me. I hadn't spoken to him for 2 years. He emails me and he says, Ray, I need these families. And I said, I'll try. I'll see what I can do. And I said a prayer. I'm like, Lord, if there's any families that could possibly benefit from this, let me know. And sure enough, I'm telling people, hey, would you be interested? Would you be interested? Just, this isn't a state sponsored thing or anything like that. It's just, it's all inclusive, whatever. You have to be receiving some sort of service from the state or whatever, because they're trying to bless people that are lower income and all that stuff. And I'm looking through cases and different things like that. And I called this random person, and it turns out she's in need of services and all this stuff. Um, anyways, it's really kind of hard to explain on here, but it was so serendipitous because I reached her at that time where she's like, I really need to talk with you. This is going to be a great thing for me and my
Yeah.
family. And the
More than a
likelihood,
coincidence.
yeah, the
Yeah.
likelihood of that happening. And I looked on her because normally I wouldn't engage with people that so I'm supposed to only engage with this certain group of people. Well, I was looking through people I had previously worked with, and I
Oh
and I
yeah.
selected and I selected hers just
Yeah.
to see, what benefits she was receiving.
Yeah.
She was already on assistance that, and we didn't even know it. No one knew it. No one
hmm
from the office knew it. I
mm
was like, why didn't I get a call about this?
Yeah.
So I just so happened to look at her case. I call her and she's like, oh yeah, I lost my job. And how serendipitous is this for me to
Yeah.
reach out, and it's mind blowing, and I'm in awe almost every day when it comes to this stuff.
I
So
haven't had the same experience in the same way. But I can point to several moments in my life, and when they happen, you don't really forget them, or I don't forget them.
yeah, yeah.
But it's where you something happened, or you felt something, or you felt you need to say something. You didn't
Hmm.
know why, you didn't understand it, you might have questioned it at the time, and if you just go with it, you're speechless. You're like, wow, like that wasn't
Yeah,
me, but I did it. And so you are filled with joy and humility in that you were able to meet that need for someone. But like when it happens to you, then I mean, again, you're like, like, some kind of pride might want to get in the way. Oh no, it's fine, I don't need it, or oh, keep it, it's fine. It's like, no, this is for you, like set apart for you and to bless you. And I mean, even just other times, like I had one time when I was walking a paper route when I was pretty young and like middle school, and in my hometown. And I remember walking like kind of in an alleyway, like there were a few houses off of that, and then walking back toward the alley, and and this is middle of a suburb, in an alley, so not very fast cars driving.
hmm,
But there was a row of arborvitaes, or just tall, thick green trees I couldn't see through. I was, just a normal day, and I stopped walking. Before I was about to walk past the row of trees into the
oh
alley, I stopped walking. I didn't know why. I remember conscious, like I'm getting chills just thinking about it again.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I remember just I stopped walking, and I remember consciously thinking and being aware of why did I stop walking. I didn't tell myself to stop walking. And like in that like 4 seconds or 3 seconds, like next thing I know, just this big truck just barrels down this alleyway.
yeah,
I'm like, I was about to cross the alleyway to go to the next house to deliver the newspaper, and I'm just like, I can't explain it. I like, and there's many instances of that where like I might have
yeah,
been in a conversation with someone and said, hey, I don't know you, I don't know what this means, I really just feel I should say this, and I say it. If I
yeah,
say it, if I feel like courage or bravery, or like I don't want to sound weird, like okay, but if I say it, so like they immediately like just break down in tears, or they're like, who are
yeah,
you, like are you an angel, or like what, I don't understand, how do you know me, or
yeah,
like why, like you don't know anything, like what, like and it's just like those moments when you can really yeah, it can't be explained by things that we can
yeah,
observe and reproduce in terms of like studying and testing,
yeah,
setting aside variables and control environments. And it's something has to exist outside of us, that and what we can experience, like, or sense, that binds us or that guides us, or something. I mean, emotions, we can kind of see neurons firing, we can kind
yeah,
of reproduce that, we can observe it to a certain extent, but why, and anger, love, why are these things a thing? And we can observe the outcomes, but we can't see them. It's kind of like wind. Like you can monitor, you can see the effects of wind on grass and trees and hair and balloons and all these things, but like seeing the wind with our naked eye, it's just we have to have some other tool to really be able to assess that or be aware of it
Yeah.
and in actually what it is and why. And I think that there's just some things personally, I believe that there are some things that exist that we may never be able to explain, but it's okay. Like it's so like there's a piece to it.
Yeah.
This is a good thing, and I wouldn't want the awareness or the control or the responsibility of this. And I mean, like Bruce Almighty, it's like when he's just flooded
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
prayers and he's like, oh man, I couldn't take it, everyone, so I just gave them all what they wanted. It's like, well, since when did people ever know what they wanted? And
Yeah.
it changes just with emotion and
Yeah.
awareness of information, environment, things. But he's like, that wasn't the whole world. That was just your block. And it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, I don't know. So I mean, it's kind of like a silly way just to say like appreciate life and recognize those moments because they might not come often. And if they
Mhm.
do, awesome. Like that's a good thing. But dive more into like just let yourself be carried away by those things and don't let like societal pressures stop you or cause you to fear some kind of recourse or reaction or something, because why does it matter? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter, like
No.
especially in the grand scheme of things. And if you can do something that really makes or breaks someone's life, well, makes someone's life into something that was never possible before, or that you were even just invited to be a part of that and a catalyst for change that they could have made on their own, but you
Yeah.
brought them into that awareness or that experience or that motivation, or that confidence. That's what I believe success means. Success is when you
Mhm.
are able to take someone who does not see their potential and bring them into the fullness of their potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, has anyone ever done that for you? Like, I know someone's done it for me, or more than one, but if has anyone ever like really invested time or energy or attention into intentionally building you up and giving you tools to succeed, that without that happening, a whole plethora of things in your life likely wouldn't have happened? Has that ever happened to you? I'm sorry. I don't want to like
I
get
understand.
super personal here.
Okay, so I have a dad, but anybody else? No, no. I think honestly, I've been guided by Jesus. I've had a lot of experiences with things, and I think that in my, I I know that the Bible says we all have an angel, guardian angel, and so I think that's been kind of my guide, and I know there's a lot of people that don't have an influence in their life that if they were to open up to the spiritual world and pray and just be a part of that, they would have that guidance. Because there's just too many people living in the streets, living, just doing things, and they might come across someone, let's say an angel that's posing as a human, and show them something good, and it just is a life changing experience. But there's people like me that just kind of go along life and keep in touch with God, kind of thing, and just try not to just do things all on my own. But outside of my wife, who's been there for let's see, it's been almost 20 years now. So
Congratulations.
she's been a great influence on me. She's a much better person than me. Much better person than me.
Yeah.
I'm a kid from the hood, kind of got myself into a lot of trouble and did a lot of bad things,
Yeah.
but she kept me straight. And but as far as like an influential figure, I wouldn't say there's any one person. My dad might be a little bit hurt about that, but honestly, he's
Mhm.
busy taking care of the family. But that's something I never even thought about. I was like, I don't. It would have been cool to have a good pastor or somebody, or some sort of
Mhm.
mentor. I know when I was in college, when we were in college together, I had a couple of professors that were pretty cool, but
Yeah.
not anyone that ever really devoted any time to me. I That wasn't an expectation of mine, and I never really thought about it, so it wasn't a thing. But how cool would that be to have someone that cares about you enough to say, "Hey, you might want to try this out." I mean, I listen to anybody. I try to learn from anybody. If it's kids, I'm trying to learn from them. I'm trying to learn from my kids. I try to learn from my neighbors.
Yeah.
My neighbors that don't speak English and stuff. I'm
Mm.
like, teach me something. Hey, we want to put this fence up. Let's do this. I want to see how you do it. And
Yeah.
I'm always I try to be humble and stuff, and I'm like, I don't really know anything. Come on, you just show me. I'm just a skinny white guy looking to learn something. So, um, and it's cool to just kind of learn from other people and tease yourself and
Yeah.
that self deprecation and people enjoy that. I think that's why people like me. But just trying to learn from people,
Hmm.
it's fun. It just makes life more fun and um, I don't I don't like to be angry very often. And when I go on
Yeah.
social media, that's why you can't get a
Oh
hold of me
yeah.
because
Yeah.
every time I go on social media, I just want to tell people to STFU pretty much, and
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
not a very Christian thing to do. But I was
Yeah.
like, seriously, I just want to tell people to shut up. Honestly, they don't know
Yeah.
what they're talking about half the time.
That I
So
mean, I don't know how to say it better myself. Okay, so I want to throw at least one more curveball at you.
yeah.
So if no one has ever done that for you, could you be that for someone else?
Oh, I mean, I think I try to be that way. Um,
Hmm.
for the people I serve, I have a short amount of time with them, and
Hmm.
and I try to lift them up and be encouraging and just say, hey, it's gonna be okay. Life is gonna
Hmm.
get better than this. You know, Uh, I know that you have an injury that's gonna probably last a while, but look at how great life is going to be when that is not there, or when you learn to live with it and you are just able to be the best self you can be and be happy and content with that. So yeah, it's just in small snippets of time, and maybe that's just the way I do it. So and what people can receive from me, because I may seem like an extrovert and I can be that, but honestly I don't have friends, and there's a reason why I don't have a lot of friends. If I have one outside of my wife,
Oh,
that's outside of
outside your
my
wife.
family.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Outside of
I
my
was to say your
outside of
wife.
my
Yeah.
wife and maybe my brother and my dad, I can't be around people too much, I guess. I don't know what it is. Maybe I have high expectations for people, but I don't know.
That's not always a bad thing. I mean,
Yeah.
people rise
Yeah.
to the expectations you have for them.
Mhm.
If you are consistent and compassionate and have
Yeah.
forgiveness, grace, and mercy for when they don't meet those expectations and you see
Yeah.
potential in them that they don't see in themselves. I mean, often like expectations can be the root of disappointment,
Yeah.
or like comparison kills character and all that. I mean, all these other things. Well, yeah, if you're going to bash it over their head that they're not this, well, why do they
Yeah.
need to be that right now? That everyone can be better, or in
Yeah.
terms of like everyone can grow, everyone at every point, everyone has something to learn, everyone has something about their life or their actions that they can grow with and
Yeah.
strive to be better than who they are now, or a better version of themselves in the future. Well, thank you so much for talking. Is there one more thing that you would really want to um drive home, or share piece of advice maybe with the listeners?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Use that for your life. Hold on to that, because honestly, it makes life so much more simple, so much more better. More better. That's what my kids say, more better. So much better.
Yeah.
And
S-
yeah, easy.
So true.
So
Well, thank you so much for talking. And to the viewers out there, if you liked it, go ahead and drop a like. Subscribing is free, and follow, and you can check us out on Facebook. Or on YouTube. We release a new video every Monday, and we're looking to come to audio only podcast soon. So thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Have a good one.
Peace.
next time. I did tell you that you would be the first one that I posted. That was a year and a half ago, and there's been so much stuff that's happened since then. And then
There's so much to talk about.
There's so much that you and I agree with, and so I want to chime in here. Oh yeah, I could add something here. I realized that I dominated the entire conversation, and I'm like, I want to highlight him.
I'm used to using my ears. My wife talks a lot, so
there's just not enough time in the day or in the episode.